Hello everyone, welcome to the channel, and you join me in a very good mood today. And to show you how, I'm going to show you, first of all, my final game from the last round of the Livingston Blitz tournament I was played in yesterday. And to give you some context going into this going into this round even, um, I was joint first with an international master and needed to win this game in order to finish either joint first or first outright, depending on his result. And I was playing against a very talented junior player who had played already, I think only like 14 years old, and I decided to start with 1 out of 3. We played the King's Indian in our first game, so I wanted to slightly mix it up, and then thought if we want to go back into the King's Indian, we will. Decided not to do that, and so we go into sort of my classic exchange queens gambit. I won't talk about this too much because the key moments happen later on, but nothing too controversial just yet. Already here, I'm thinking there's a lot of sort of weakening moves. This bishop is an absolute monster. That's why I sort of moved it back from h4. I don't want any nonsense where the knight e4 to try and trade on e7. I just want this bishop on a good long diagonal. It can go back to h2. Quite happy to have my h3 move in. And here I'm already feeling quite comfortable, and the computer kind of agrees. Did not play this accurate enough. I completely didn't think about bishop e6. That's a very good point, computer. Thank you for pointing that out. But we played rook c1, rook e8, queen e4. c4, and now am I going for slight cheapos with queen c2 and just sort of line up this battery? Yes, but hey, you don't mock it if it works. And in this case, I go knight e5 and my opponent takes on e5, and this is quite a bad blunder. Although I don't play this perfectly here, you just play f3. I don't know how I missed this. Well, I do. It was a blitz game and I'd sort of seen my plan. F3 just wins the piece because after f3, knight takes knight, you play check, here, checkmate, game over. So that was a bit of a silly miss, but I'd seen this position and thought I'm doing very well here, so I want to continue what I was doing. So I just started building up pressure on the king, just hoping that eventually I can break through and just improve my pieces however I can. And about this point, I was starting to be a little bit down on time. I don't have a note by time here, but I think I had just over a minute here. And glancing over at board one, I thought it looked quite drawish, so I thought, here I need to go for a win. There's no messing around. So I play h5, which the computer does not like, but after the exchanges here, so the computer does want h takes g5, where I was intending playing queen takes g5, and I feel that there's a lot of pressure here. I think the computer recommends queen e7 here, and it gives white a slight edge, a very slight edge, but considering we're in a blitz game and I've sacrificed a piece, to still have a slight edge, I'd be perfectly okay with that. But it does get very complicated from there. But we're not here to see what could have happened. My opponent played king h8, and here I build up the pressure with bishop f6, and here the idea of bishop takes, rook g8. I'm now going to go rook here. So we cannot take the queen, even though it's hanging, because it won't let me, because there's a pin. And after takes, the king can't escape, because this bishop's blocking, can't go here obviously because the queen and the pawn, and I'm just threatening to play queen g7 mate. And there's no way to stop that. If you take the rook, then we're playing queen g7. So my opponent didn't go down that line, instead they played rook g8. I played rook d8 anyway, just creating the same sort of idea. So if takes, we then play checkmate again. And if bishop takes, then we play queen takes rook checkmate. My opponent took on d8. Now, in this situation, I was a little bit giddy. I know I'm completely winning. I'm looking at board one, and I can see that the person trying to catch me, the international master, is in a drawn position. So I need to win this game to win the tournament. And I thought to myself, why not do it in style? So I played queen takes g7. And in this position, my opponent resigned on the spot. Now, obviously, the king can't take because the bishop's guarding. The king can't go to h7 because the bishop's defending, and obviously can't go here because the rook's in the way. So the only legal move is rook takes g7, at which point rook takes d8 is checkmate. Because we check here, and the two bishops cover absolutely everything. So I won my first tournament in over 15 years with a queen sacrifice in the last round to jump ahead of the international master chasing me. So this was potentially my best tournament I've played in ever. Never mind since coming back to competitive chess. But yeah, it was definitely a highlight moment for me here. So the second game to show you, I'm just going to show you the opening. This is actually against the same opponent that I played in the last round of the Blitz. This is our Rapid game in the last round of the Rapid, so a bit of coincidence there. But in this game, as I mentioned in the previous analysis, we went into King's Indian. And I think the reason that they avoided this, they did seem a little bit perplexed by h3. They took a little bit of time. They might not have seen this variation before. It's not one of the main lines, but it's not a totally uncommon move. So that's why I wanted to avoid it in our second game, because I thought they might have had a little look at it. I'm not as booked up as I like to pretend I am. But the one thing I am booked up on is this move e5. As here, I know it is, well, the computer gives it an accuracy. I would probably call it a blunder, if I'm brutally honest. And the reason is after taking on e5, taking on e5, queen takes d8, rook takes d8, you now play the move knight d5. Take advantage of this pin, and we're also attacking c7 if that matters at all, but you can't play a move like rook d6, because it's just c5, and eventually you're going to pick up one of these pieces. Here, this is a check, just in case anyone's wondering. But you're going to pick up some pieces here, or the exchange. I think the main move is knight b5. I think this is potentially. I always forget this line, but I actually intentionally ignored this for a very silly reason, and that's because I played a lot of this line in Bullet, and whatever happens when I'm playing Bullet, I always relax after winning the exchange or going up a little bit, and then I mess it up somehow. So instead, I chickened out and went for bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, knight d5, and here I'm just realising I'm attacking on f6, I'm attacking on c7, and I think the move you're supposed to play is knight d7, and I'm just going to pick up a pawn, and after rook d8, back to d5, and just say, I'm doing better here, I've won a pawn, life is quite good. Instead, my opponent wanted to be a bit aggressive and play rook takes d5, after which I took. Won't bore you the rest of the game, it's sort of a slow manoeuvring game. Ended up with apparently only 3 inaccuracies, one of them not playing knight d5. So I finished with 3 inaccuracies for 96% accuracy, I think it was, which is why I don't really trust Stockfish too much, because I don't think this was my most perfect game. But nice to show that the tiny bit of opening prep that I've done means that I know these positions. But in hindsight, I just need to learn this line a little bit more concretely to finish up my game a lot faster. Now, you don't always win tournaments by playing good games the whole time. You sometimes win tournaments by getting a little bit lucky. And this was definitely one of those games where I was slightly better for the whole game, but not playing my most accurate. And this is shown by the move I just played, Queen f4, which Stockfish has given us a complete draw line. And the move that I was looking at, which Stockfish recommends, is Queen b6. And here you actually have to be quite careful. So, for example, a move like Queen f6, you actually lose on the spot. And because you're now in check, the Queen is attacked, and after you take, there's no way to stop pawn promoting. I was looking at lines with like d6, I was looking at lines with queen h6, I was looking at putting my king on h3 just out of my own volition, and to be honest, I couldn't really see a way through. I was thinking this might fizzle out into a draw. Instead, my opponent was very kind and played queen takes f4. And here, after a couple of moves, the reason I want to show this game is just for a nice little endgame trick, where I play the move f5. And some of you might be thinking, okay, takes, and then maybe take here, and what's going on here, and you need to start counting moves. But in actual fact, after g takes f5, I just play e5. So I've now got these 2 pawns, which I can either push either way to protect each other, but also leaving weaknesses here, here, and here. So there's no way for black to defend these pawns. And after f6, sort of last trick where, again, do we need to calculate all of this and try and figure out who's winning this position? We could, or we could just play e6. And black has no way to get this pawn without allowing this passed pawn. These 2 pawns are controlled by this one, this one, and I'm just going to very slowly take everything in my own time. So it's a nice little endgame trick just to finish off that game, although I did get quite lucky. Speaking of getting lucky, this was my game with white against international master Angus Dunnington, and I really hadn't played that great for the opening or the middle game. Really wasn't happy with my play at all, and as you can see, I'm 2 pawns down. I'm essentially only playing on because I've got a knight, and I know knights are tricky in Blitz, but in my head I'm sort of thinking, at what point do I resign this game? And after repeating a couple of moves, he moves his bishop back to a6. I play h6 trying to, advance my pawn, take off a white square, and give an extra square for my knight. And here, there's a few different moves that win, but probably the simplest is just to bring the king across, go after this pawn. At any point, if I start going after this one, you just play bishop b5, at which point this pawn guards that entry square, this bishop guards these two squares, and this pawn guards that one. And there's no way for my king to get in. And you're either going to pick up this pawn, or you can use the bishop to pick up these pawns. And if I bring the king this way to try and defend, this pawn will run. So completely bust in this position until my opponent plays bishop c8. And here it gets very tricky because after knight h5, bishop g4 for example, take, bishop here, take, take, suddenly I'm only one pawn down. And I'm going to use my knight to pick up this pawn, because there's no way you can defend this h7 square with just the bishop. So I'm going to push, win the bishop, and then win this pawn, and this king can always guard the square. And even if hypothetically all of these pieces get traded, and he's left with a pawn and a bishop, I just hide my king on a8, and this is the wrong colour bishop to promote this pawn. So I'll try and think of the easiest way to give an example of this. Say for example we go bishop here, go here, take, we go king here, takes. Here, all I need to do is put my king back on the back rank, and there's no way for black to advance. For example, here is stalemate. I've got no legal moves, and there's no way to force my king not to go to either one of these two squares, at which point I just keep going back and forward onto these two, or onto these two, and ends up being a draw. So I'd seen this and felt very lucky with myself. But my opponent didn't play this either. After knight h5, he went king c5. Now here we can still hold the draw, but it gets all very complicated in this position. After taking, we probably end up in something very similar. But again, my opponent played a4. Now here we have a problem because after knight takes h7, bishop takes g4, knight takes g5, now instead of picking up this pawn, it's defended by the knight. And what you can maybe see here is I've got two moves to queen, and my next move is going to probably be h7, almost regardless of what black plays, except for moving the game. So there's no way for him to go bishop e5, h6, bishop g6, then a queen. So that doesn't work out. This square is covered, so that doesn't do anything. If you move this way, again, just push. There's no way for black to get onto a square that stops the queening. So after a3, I play king b3, and again, luckily there's no check because it's covered by the knight, because otherwise if check takes bishop's back, then we're guarding this queening square, which is probably a draw again, but there is no check because the knight covers it. And here my opponent resigned because he realised there was no way to stop it. So it just shows that knights are very tricky in blitz chess. And very quickly, just one final game, because I needed to show a game of black. For the most part, my games of black were just very solid and not very interesting. I was sort of just exploiting weaknesses wherever I could, so they're not the most entertaining to show. But I just wanted to quickly show the opening in this game. And the reason I wanted to show this is because a lot of people I see talking online or talking about learning chess or talking about openings. Now, is it good to learn openings? Yes. Am I currently studying openings? Yes. But a lot of low-rated players, you're talking 1200, 1300, even lower than that, people are rated 1000, are all learning opening traps and studying openings. And to me, it neglects the fun parts of chess, going out there and playing, but also the fundamentals. Because are you going to memorize every single opening? No. There's always going to be something that comes up with a tricky line that you don't know, in which case you suddenly don't know general plans in random positions. And that's why I do sort of advocate for playing bullets, because it just exposes you to stuff and you just see loads of positions. So regardless of what your opponent plays, you've probably seen something similar. Whereas people who go for the same openings every time but play 10-minute games and are exposed to a lot less, they might not see as much. So there's my 2 cents on why bullet chess is actually good for you. I don't fully believe it, but I'm going to justify playing a lot of bullet anyway. But in this game, I sort of did come with a little bit of surprise. So I played c5. My opponent told me after the game that he was quite booked up. He'd been looking at the Benko gambit. So the Benko gambit is b5 here to sacrifice a pawn, and the Benoni, which is e6. So he'd seen these before, and that's why I don't play those lines anymore. I used to play the Benko, but I played the move knight e4. Now this is objectively not a good line, but subjectively in a Blitz game where your opponent obviously has less time to figure things out over the board. I've seen this position many, many times. I've played pretty much all the different lines you can play against it many, many, many times. So I'm very exposed to these, whereas my opponent wasn't. And I think he went into like a 30-second think here. And eventually played queen c2, which is the main move. And after queen e5 again, he went into a little bit of a think here, because this is a position he'd never seen before. And he asked me to have a look at this after the game. Now the normal line is knight d2, at which point the computer wants you to go back to f6. But no, I would actually play knight d6, which again, really not an accurate move, but this is what's called the vulture. And the idea is that you're going to get this really beautiful bishop on g7. This knight in d6 sort of has a little bit of control, and might be looking to play d5. And after sort of relatively normal moves, you eventually move e5. And here, after takes, the computer suddenly likes black's position. It sort of sees the benefit of having open lines. Yes, you can sort of kick the queen away, but coming back and then having the option to go to the king side is not the worst. And if you don't take, well then black's got a foothold in the centre. We're going to play f5 at some point. Although it's hard to get pieces out, eventually you might utilise this b4 square. For example, if knight b3, that can maybe go into a6, maybe into c7 to play b5. This bishop, eventually after this knight move, can go d6 and then out this way. So it's a very slow manoeuvring game, but again, if you're not familiar with it, it can be quite interesting. Instead, my opponent played quite a natural move, bishop d2, and after takes, we just end up in a position where, if anything, black is slightly better. And after just a few short moves where, again, going against opening principles, putting the knight on the rim, we play a little bit more, and what you'll see is a position where suddenly white's under a lot of pressure. And there's a lot of grovelling, I feel, for white in this game where black's got the active pieces, black's got this amazing bishop on g7. I won't show you the full game because it wasn't the most accurate conversion from me, but eventually I did get the win after quite a complex endgame, which was probably a draw. But it just comes to show that sometimes familiarity with positions is better than being booked up on mainline theory or tricky opening lines. But it's good to see a lot of different positions, I feel, to get these positions that you're familiar with, understanding opening principles, and also understanding middle game and end game principles, because if you get into a middle game that's not your usual opening, you've got no idea what the plans are, you need to figure it out on the fly. Now, have I played this in a Blitz or Rapid game recently? No, but I've seen this sort of position before, I know the sort of ideas, and I felt really comfortable. And black is just doing very well here, with the access to the A file, with this beautiful bishop, and yeah, was very happy with this game. But yeah, hopefully enjoyed. Just a quick show of my games, and I will leave a link to the rest of the games down in the description so you can see the games from all the Open, apart from the first two rounds, there was some technical issues, but you can see rounds 3, 4, and 5 in the Open, and all the rounds in the Blitz. And if you have any questions about the games, let me know. But yeah, it was fun to get back, play some over the board, and actually play well for once, because I've not been playing well this week at all, so it was nice to have a little change of pace. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the games. Thank you very much.